right, so welcome to another episode of Creativity in the Valley. This is episode 2, and today our guest is Sean Benke from Combytech Media. Thank you, Sean, for coming and joining us. Mind you, I guess we're joining you because we're in your studio today, which we're hopefully planning to be able to do all of our podcasts from this area because you do have a nice setup going right now. First thing I said is like, wow, this is awesome when I walked in, and it does look really, really good. So, we kind of talked about Creativity in Valley and what our purpose is, and our purpose is just, as a community, get with other creative, like-minded folk, talk about, what kind of gets you in your creative kind of modes, and why you kind of do what you do, and I think it's really important that, as a community, that we can continue to do these kind of creativity little podcasts, because then we get to kind of know a little bit about all the awesome people that are in and around the Ottawa Valley, right? So you're the owner and operator of Combytech Media,
yes,
right? So kind of tell me a little bit about your company.
Well, I've always had a knack for technology, and going back for those who can remember in computer days, I mean, PCs were just starting out. We still had Apple in its infancy. There was Commodore 64s. Commodore 64s. But beyond that, they got into the Amigas and so forth. And that's when there's a company, New Tech, who's still around, got into video toasters. And a video toaster basically was a huge leap at that time to turn a standard computer system into basically a TV studio in a box.
Okay.
And I was probably, I was teenager. And
just a few years ago.
Just a few years ago. And I don't know, it was like a bug. It kind of hit me, and again, I went to Loyalist College for television broadcasting to kind of spur that on. Long story short, I ended up back in the Valley, coming back home, and realized that, well, if I'm coming back here, I'm going to make the best of it. And sure enough, through a lot of hard work, a lot of trial and error, I gradually grew my experience, grew my skills, collected a lot of equipment, and just decided to go for it. And this is, part of that dream coming true.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, you talk about equipment. Hopefully, we can get a shot of all the stuff that you have behind this curtain. That's over here.
That's why I have the curtain there.
So. You do have quite the collection. I mean, you can see a couple pieces on the set, but your collection is very, very large. And obviously, with what you do, you need all that, right?
Yeah.
And then you also have your website, Shoot, Edit, Share.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
A lot of the work that I do is it's content creation for people to use as promotional material. I mean, video is one of those mediums that capture people's attention very easily and very quickly. The Shoot, Edit, Share concept came out of just a random conversation with friends, and I liked it. It just like, what do you do? Well, I shoot, I edit stuff, and out it goes. It gets shared. So I decided to use that. Now, the biggest thing with the website, and for those who are in website design, I am terrible at website design and maintenance because most of my content is all done through the social media streams. Your YouTube, your Facebook, your Twitter, your whatever, and other customer websites. So when people say, "Oh, do you have a website?" I'm like, for the longest time, I'm like, no. No, I don't. So I came up with the Shoot, Edit, Share, and just had a website. But the biggest thing is all my social media streams are tied to it. And in honesty, I would love to revamp it and so forth, but I'm too busy doing everything else.
Everything else, And websites they're hard to maintain, especially when you try and do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
I myself, I'm not a web designer per se anymore. When I was younger, I did go to college for it, but it's like you don't have time, right? It's a very hard thing to do. So we talked about your Shoot, Edit, Share, Combytech Media, and then do you want to just tell us about yourself a little bit?
Well, Born and raised in Pembroke. I have 2 younger brothers, twins. My mom lives in town. Married to Nicole. I have a son who's 12 now. And I, between doing my own thing, I also work at Algonquin College, the Pembroke Waterfront campus.
Yes.
And enjoyed it very much. I've been working with Jamie Bramberger for a number of years,
Yeah.
and he's part of the reason that I keep wanting to better myself. I mean, he has a broadcasting background as well, and it's kind of interesting because he has the radio background.
Yeah.
I had the TV background. I knew a number of other people through my interactions, newspaper reporters and so forth. So when we talk about collaboration and so forth, like I've been doing this probably since the early 90s.
Yeah.
And it's just neat how everyone kind of somewhere along the line your paths cross elsewhere. And I was lucky enough that when a career change came up for me, Jamie basically made me an offer, and the rest is history. It's been going almost 7 years now at the college, in addition to what I do here.
To what you do. And we talk about cross paths, and I want to kind of talk about how you and I cross paths for the first time, because we know that this podcast would not be happening had you and I never met, and you're talking about crossing paths. So you and I first crossed paths when we worked together along with John Butler and 2 other photographers for the Care Force Center, right? Where you had done some promotional material. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, it was an interesting project. So Ray Clayton at the Care For, through just, I guess, random emails and random conversations with people, had this fundraiser idea to do a calendar for the residents at the Care For complex. And there was a combination of photographers, so there's yourself, John, and then she also wanted to capture the behind the scenes. So that's when I kind of came into it. Also, the Fellows High School students were involved.
Yes, they were.
So, being from Fellows myself, I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting, and yeah, just through sit down conversations and planning, next thing you know, there we were going through the photo shoots. The students were doing the makeup. You guys would set up the residents who were dressed up as TV characters, movie characters, and everything. It was a great shoot.
It was.
And to kind of help tell the story, because a lot of, and again, Care For is just one of many organizations that, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes for it doesn't matter how big the event is or how big the function is or anything like that. There's always a story behind it. So that's where the concept of creating the behind the scenes video. Now, the finished product, I think it was just under a half hour, but it shows.
It did.
It shows the impact that when you get a collection of people, a collaboration of people, that you can really make a really interesting project. And I thought it was great.
It was. I remember. I think it was John who shared the link with me when you finally had it posting like that. And I remember watching it and being so excited with what you did with it. You know, going to Fellows and talking to the students, talking to the residents of Care For, and then talking to John and myself. It was a really nice thing to see, and it was so timely too, right? Because it was like around Christmas time that it came out, and all that, and that was a project I think that we all enjoyed because we got to be part of it.
And the other thing is it was different.
Yeah.
And again, that's part and parcel of where this concept came up with, building a studio. I mean, yes, there's with video work and as you know, with photography, I mean, there's studio work and then you're out there, you're out in the field. And the Care For project, it was something that we were going between Fellows and then the Care For, and then of course all the editing and that afterwards. But it kind of got me thinking that there's lots of opportunity to have shows like this where people just want to get the information out. And I think that's the biggest thing, where there's not always that opportunity for people just to kind of tell their story, get it out there. And this is kind of my contribution to help fill that gap.
Yeah, and I mean, I appreciate it because I think when you and I had that first conversation about, we wanted to do wanted to do something kind of fun and involve the community. I think
Yeah.
when we kind of decided, hey, yeah, this would be fun.
Yeah.
This is kind of what it's about, right? It's now about kind of sharing our stories, talking about our creativity side, and letting people kind of know.
Yeah.
So my last thing before I go into my 5 questions for you is,
Yeah.
you do a lot of community involvement. Why do you like to help the community so much with your work?
Well, I think the biggest thing is kind of what I already came across is you never know when you're going to cross someone's path again.
Yeah.
I started out as a volunteer with, well, it was then Rogers, now Cogeco. And that really opened my eyes. Again, most people, when they think of, for instance, municipal councils, sometimes not the most riveting of programming when you're a young adolescent.
Yeah.
You're not worrying about, paying taxes, water taxes or anything like that. But it really got me thinking that, wow, there's a lot more out there. Then, as you volunteer and as you get to know more people, I got involved with the Pembroke Lumber Kings organization, both as a volunteer and what I do now as well. Organizations like the Cancer Society, Care For, as we mentioned, there's a number of them. I like it because, one, you feel good about yourself, but also you're helping other people that may not necessarily have the resources or, and again, I'm pretty sure you can relate to this, is as technical photographers, videographers, we have unique skills that not everyone, regardless of today's technology and smartphones and cameras and easily upload to YouTube and all, there's a neat set of skills and knowledge that needs to be, and not everyone has that.
Yeah.
And to be able to share that and be able to see other people learn from you. I think one of my biggest accomplishments is when I was volunteer coordinator at Cogeco, to actually see young students, high school students, come in, whether they were co-op, whether they were volunteering, and pursue their dreams. Like, I've had students that have gone on to work on major films. I have students that are still in the industry, both film and television. They still keep in touch with me. Yep. And that was part and parcel of not only my volunteering, but also that sharing of knowledge, and it's good. I like it.
That is good, and to be in such a small community and be able to have people like that are out doing TV shows and films, just to show, like, really, no matter where you are, if you get that skill set and you understand it, it can help you kind of grow.
Exactly.
Right? That's awesome. All right, so now we're going to go on to our creativity questions, and a little bit different from our last one because you're not a photographer, so I had to think of a little different for what I would do. But what do you do to strive to be unique in the stuff you create?
Listen to people.
Okay.
The internet has definitely changed the creativity process, because it's like, okay, I have this idea. Okay, let's go to Pinterest. Let's go to YouTube. Yep. Let's go to Vimeo. Let's go, and not that you're taking other people's ideas. It just helps the process, like, okay, that's neat. I like the way they did that. What can I do with my resources and my time to do something either similar or to put my own spin on it?
Yes.
And I think that's a big thing, because everyone, again, when they get into video and they talk about doing projects and so forth, like, everyone thinks Hollywood first. It's like, well, no, sometimes you don't have to do, you don't have to go totally George Lucas or Steven Spielberg, like, because there's, even with this setup, there's a lot that's going on. And I think, to get people to kind of think a little bit differently, you listen to what their idea is, and then, do the research and then come up. And then sometimes, my wife hates this, but sometimes I'll coffee and just lying in bed 2:00 in the morning. I have this idea. And you
write
get
it
on
down.
the iPad or whatever the case may be, and then follow through in it. Like I said, trial and error is.
Yeah, it does help. I'm kind of the same. Same thing happens to me sometimes. Is I will be laying in bed and an idea will pop in my head and I have to jot it down because I know by the next morning I'm going to forget it. So next one is, is there anybody that kind of has inspired your work or inspired what you're doing?
Oh, inspiration. I get inspired from seeing, and again, to fall back on the success of people that I've worked with.
Yeah.
Seeing what they're doing. I get inspired from watching TV.
Yeah.
I get inspired from seeing things in film. Again, my wife doesn't hate me, but dislikes when I watch a film,
Yes,
a movie, a TV show, and I'm not just paying attention to what's happening on the screen. I'm like, oh, that's a jib shot. Oh, okay, I saw. Yeah, that's
you're picking it apart. Yeah.
I'm technically tearing it apart, trying to figure out, okay, how did they do that? Oh, I like that. I wonder if I can. How can I implement in that without having to spend, another couple $1,000s on a piece of equipment,
which you probably wouldn't like, anyways, right?
Yeah. So it's. I get inspiration from all over. Like even just, I know it sounds cheesy and I know it sounds cliche, but even just going out for a walk.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just clears and it's like, oh, wait a sec. I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
So, working with people like yourself, working with people like John, working with people who, my son's in sports, so I cover their football games.
Yeah.
And doing that helped me connect with other people, which again give me ideas to do things. So I get inspiration from all over the place. It's just sometimes it's stay focused.
Yeah. That's true too. And then when was the first time that you kind of realized that you were a creative person? Is there a moment in time that you were just like, I
was 4 years old and I got my first Lego set.
Okay. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
I like that. That you don't need to go any more than that. I understand. And then, this, you kind of answered this too, because you talked about walking and kind of clearing your mind, but how do you deal with getting a creative block?
Believe it or not, sometimes just sitting. I don't read as much as I used. Actually, I don't read books as much as I do. I do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
But it's usually, Video Maker magazine or online documentation. And it happens. I think one of my biggest flaws sometimes, and it's just procrastination, because you're like, oh, I'm not in the mood to do this, and it's like, oh, I can do that tomorrow. I need to work on this other thing. Procrastination is definitely a block.
Yeah.
And it does hurt. Like most editors or most people who are into videography and working on because it's very repetitive. Listening to the same clip over 30, 40 times, picking the right music, going over, finding out that transition doesn't work. Like a lot of it is a lot of people, how do you do it? And it's like, well, you block it out most of the time. But to get that creativity and to get over some of that block, it's tough. Like editors will say that you have to be in the mood.
Yeah.
And you kind of do. You kind of do. There are times where I've had to force myself. It's like, no, I need to get this project done.
Yeah.
I need to, and right now I'm kind of in that situation where I have projects that I have to get done, and it's just like I need to think of something new, because it is so easy to get into a rut.
Yep.
When you start producing stuff, because you always want that uniqueness. There can be similarities in the way things are edited and produced, but you always want that uniqueness, because not every person or not every subject is the same.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just grin and bear it. Get coffee.
Your coffee. So then again, with that being said, is there anything special that you do to get into that creative mindset?
fun projects.
Yeah, okay.
You have to mix it up.
Yeah.
Yes, you still have to pay the bills. You still have to bring income in order to continue growing and getting those pieces of equipment. But you just have to see mind block right now. You just
Yeah, it makes sense. Finding fun projects to do, because it just kind of breaks that monotony. It's a bad word to say, but
See, I was trying to find that one phrase. You don't want to become stagnant.
Yeah.
You can't become stagnant
Yeah.
in any creative type service business. You can't be cookie cutter.
No.
And as soon as you become cookie cutter, then you lose that passion. And as soon as you lose that passion, then it just becomes a job. I like the fact that one of my biggest and wonderful phrases I love is, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
It's true.
And I try to live up to that. I try to. And yes, there are times where, yes, there is that bit of monotony, but when you work on creative projects like this, like the Care For, and again, stuff that I do at the college, there's never a dull moment. So you always try to not necessarily reinvent yourself, but keep pushing.
Yeah.
Keep pushing.
Okay. And this is sometimes a hard one to answer, but out of everything you've done so far, do you have a favorite creation, a favorite video, something that really you finished it and you were like, this is awesome?
I did, and this is going back to my community TV days. I did a behind the scenes of a CCHL hockey game. So it was a 12 camera shoot. I had microphones on the opposing goalies.
Mm-hmm.
I had microphones on the referee, and I had microphones on the two coaches.
Okay.
38 hours of raw footage was shot that I had to condense down into a half-hour product.
Wow,
at
okay.
the end. Needless to say, to me, that was, and that will always kind of be one of my favorite projects to work on, because I had so many people involved with it. It was 4 months of planning.
Yeah. Well, I call that a production.
Yeah,
like, that's production.
Yeah,
right?
and to me it still stands. I can watch it. Yes, Sheldon Keefe, who was the coach at the time, yes, he's moved on to bigger and better things. I think Bill Bowker, who is with the Smiths Falls Bears, he's no. But the thing is, you can still watch that, and anyone who's gone to a junior A hockey game or any hockey game realizes that when you're watching it live, there are certain sounds and certain things that go on that you're not aware of.
Yeah.
And to be able to hear the comments from the referees, to hear the comments from the goalies.
Yes.
The fact that some goalies sing to themselves when they're in between whistles.
Yeah.
It's like the stuff that coaches say. It's amazing. Like, to me, I'll always like that. I did another one that just focused on the referee. So we did the two linesmen, we did the ref, and we had them all mic'd up. And then in between intermissions, we interviewed them.
Yes.
And then and it was fun. And then the other things that I've done, there's a number of smaller projects that I look back at and I'm really happy with. The Timber Crib, when they floated that down the river, I did a documentary on that. Big productions. A lot of the smaller things that I've done on my own, I've done a lot of promotional video for the hospital, City of Pembroke. I've done a number, Town of Petawawa, I've done some stuff for. And again, even though a lot of them have that commercial aspect to it, like I'm still proud of them. Like I'm still looking at it. And of course, as technology becomes more affordable and different, such as the drone, it allows me to work on more of those fun and innovative projects.
Good, awesome. So now we're going to go into just kind of you and just kind of questions about that, not so much about your creativity side. So how long have you been doing what you do?
I would say 23 years.
23 years?
23, 24 years. So.
And still going strong, which is nice.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's...
I mean, I started out on 3/4 inch tape. 3/4 inch tape.
I wonder if there's people are going to be like, what is tape?
Yeah. So I've been through 3/4 inch tape, the VHS, the Super VHS, the Beta, the High 8, the digital High 8, the Mini DV,
I saw that you had some Mini DVs on your windowsill over there.
I got a whole closet.
I couldn't believe it.
I went through the recordable DVDs. I've gone through the DVC Pro. I've got now, of course, everything is memory card, SD card, right, or compact flash is still around. Like it's been and just the way that you maintain and archive that footage is totally changed.
Yep, absolutely.
And sometimes interesting.
So my next question was, how did you get your start? And you kind of just went in it, right? You started with the 3/4 inch tape and everything like that. So when nobody can see what is all here right now in terms of the equipment that you have set up, but when you go on location, what do you bring with you?
As much as I can fit in my truck.
As much as you can fit in your car. Okay, so like, give me some. So I know this camera that I'm looking at is a Panasonic camera,
yeah,
and so is this one.
Yeah.
But like, kind of go into that equipment that you would bring with you. For people that'll be interested.
So for instance, if it was a so for a standard promotional shoot, so a company has hired me to come in and do some short video clips for the business. Usually I bring 1 or 2 cameras, tripods. Sometimes I'll bring, I have a mini jib, which is actually just in behind you. I have a body mount Steadicam type. I have a slider. I sometimes bring the digital SLR depending on the artistic look that they want.
Yep.
For full-fledged production, and again, stuff I do at Algonquin. So we'll look at, like, we cover the Remembrance Day ceremony. We had Bob McKenzie from TSN up not too long ago, so I turned the gymnasium into a 4-camera TV studio. So studio in the box, hook it up. There's audio mixer that goes with that. There's usually a graphic system.
Yep.
Add probably the 3 miles of wiring to go with it, both audio and video. Add the multiple monitors. I could go on, but it's sometimes it's just a single camera bag, which is probably about 40 pounds when it's filled with the camera, the extra batteries, the light, the microphones, the cabling, and then of course the tripod. I mean, that's pretty much what we call your standard ENG EFP kit.
Yeah.
And then depending on if you want to do multicam. I mean, this is a very basic multicam where we're just using 2 cameras and we're switching back and forth.
Yeah.
But I can go up to 8 cameras easily.
Yeah.
And of course the more elaborate that you want to make the production, the more cameras that you have, and then of course the more operators that you need to be able to do it.
That's cool. That's very, very cool. I wish people could see kind of what you have set up here, because you got John doing our editing quickly back behind there while we're doing this. But I mean, they don't get to see all the cameras. They don't get to see all your little boxes that you have set up with, like, you got your computer in there. It looks like you got like some, I don't know, you got a whole bunch of stuff in there. It's just a
lot of wires.
It's a lot of stuff. And then what do you think is the most important technique for a videographer? Something that they should know, or something that they should really be understanding?
I think the biggest thing with video, and most people don't understand it, is pay attention to your audio.
Yeah.
Your audio is the most important aspect of any video project. I mean, you can easily manipulate the look of your video. You can put filters, you can adjust it. I mean, it's a lot easier to fix video than it is to fix audio. If you have crappy audio, it doesn't matter how good, whether you shot with digital SLR or I did a 12 camera shoot. If the audio sounds like crap, you've lost your audience, you've lost your a bit of credibility too, because when someone hires me or someone hires a videographer, I mean, a lot of people have the perception that you just show up with your camera, you turn it on, and you record. You probably get the same thing with photographers, like, oh, I come with my camera bag and I'm just like, all right, done, right? And it's like, no, there's a lot more to it than that. Then I think once you get, once you realize that, you got the audio under control, is then you concentrate on everything that a standard photographer, but your composition, your lighting, making sure that you are getting those, the creative shots. Yeah. And then beyond that, then you get into the editing process. There are some people who are just straight videographers, and that's all they do. That's all they want to do. They know how to shoot, they know how to get the raw footage, the content, and then they can hand it off to someone who would do the editing. Yeah. I always love editing. Yeah. But sometimes I like when some people give me content to work with, and it's up to me to take that and kind of mold it and change it into something that is phenomenal. Other times it's easier for me to do the shooting, the planning, the shooting, the editing, and then the distribution. So, there's a mix. But yeah, definitely audio when it comes to video should be your number one priority. Followed by your lighting, your composition, and then add your own kind of personal touch to it.
It's interesting that you say audio. Excuse me, because I honestly never really would have thought about that. I never would have thought. You're right, because it's like when you think of a wedding as a photographer, you don't get a second chance at that day. So it's the same thing with your audio. If you don't capture that audio that day the right way, you can't go back and do it. You've got the video. Yeah. You can manipulate it and do whatever you want, but you don't have that audio. So that's an interesting thing, because I think for me, one of the things, and I've talked to you about it, is when I'm watching a video or I'm watching some kind of production, depth of field is a huge deal to me. Yeah. It drives me nuts when there's no separation, and I've talked to you about that. So it's interesting that you say audio, because again, I never ever would have thought about that. But you're right. I could have this beautiful shot with gorgeous depth of field and all this thing going on, but the sound is atrocious. Yeah. You're not going to enjoy it. So
well, I mean, and that's the thing. Like when we talk about equipment and cameras, like the cameras I use, they're not your run-of-the-mill consumer cameras that you can pull off the shelf. I mean, there is some value, but do I wish they had interchangeable lenses sometimes? Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have the $4,000 to $5,000 to spend on the equipment that would give me that capability. Yeah. I could make any production, regardless if it's studio based or if it's EFP or whatever the case may be. I can make it look like network television. Yeah. However, there's that return on investment. Yeah. Like if I'm going to soak that much money into it, I got to make sure that I'm going to be making that back. So again, it's been a stepping stone throughout. And yeah, I would love to shoot everything, with that depth of field, because and as well too, as we were looking at some of the raw footage from
the Days of Princess Ball.
It's amazing. Yeah. And I love it. And it gives it such a different look, feel, emotional attachment. Like there's so much, but I can't do everything like that. And
no, you can't. And you're right, because again, that audio, that's why I said I wouldn't even thought about that, because again, we can talk about the Days Little Princess Ball, because you did video for that, because you're going to do a nice kind of promotional material so that we can have it when we do it again. But you could have it looking beautiful, but if you didn't capture any audio nice, then even though it looks nice, it's still not going to do it. Right? Yeah. So that's really cool that you think audio is kind of like that key technique, and that's something that hopefully people will pick up on and kind of get that. And then my last one is, if you have something, do you have like a funny story or funniest moment from any time that you were doing a production?
That's
like safe.
Going back to the hockey game that I covered, I actually stopped the hockey game. I brought Sheldon was out of timeouts. It was the third period, and everything was going well. I'm basically running around, and all of a sudden the opposing goalie starts slapping his stick on the ice, and everyone's like, well, what's going on? He's trying to get the ref's attention. his microphone the clip had come undone.
Okay.
So here he is in his goalie, you know, with his microphone hanging between his legs, and of course they had to stop the game, right?
Yeah.
So here I am, you know, they're looking for me. I saw what was going on. I'm having to run down to the ice. I got the entire PMC booing, well, not necessarily booing, but, you know, really kind of.
You stopped the game, right?
Yeah.
This is the hockey town.
Yeah,
so.
because Pembroke was winning, and then all of a sudden Smiths Falls turned around, and all of a sudden, you know, the momentum changed, and so it was funny because in the raw footage, and I think I put it in the final production too, where Sheldon's like, "Come here, guys, come on, like, you know, let's take advantage of this, right?"
Yeah.
And then the ref actually went to the Pembroke goalie and actually says, "Well, you know what? This actually works out well for you guys." So I mean, to me, that was one of those moments where it's like,
yeah,
what do?
Yeah.
You just go with it. I mean, there's a number of other ones where, again, not so much. It wasn't. Was it a wedding? I don't know. I was helping someone out. It was just, I guess, a friend's wedding, and they asked me. I said, "As a wedding gift," I said, "Okay, I'll do their I'll do their video, get some clips."
Yeah.
And you know, so I'm trying to stay out of the photographer's way, and they're posing them up, and I think what happened is as she was posing them up, they were backing up, and all of a sudden one backed, and everyone, the whole party went flipping over. Yeah. So it's like, and meanwhile, I have that all on tape. So it's like, do I put that in the wedding video? Yeah. But so bloopers are always a great thing too, during any production. Like I got, you know, people that you would normally think, you know, are composed and so forth, and then they end up saying something just off the wall, and you're like, oh, okay.
I got that on tape.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, the stopping the hockey game, I think, always comes up to me, because I'm like, that normally doesn't happen, because I mean, it's a league, it's a professional league, and I'm actually stopping the game.
Here you go. You've stopped the game.
Yeah.
Did Pembroke end up winning?
No, they ended up losing.
Well, that's all I have for you for your questions. Thanks for coming by, Sean.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it, and I obviously love the spot here, so hopefully we can continue doing them in this space here, because it's a really nice space. So thank you for watching our second episode of Creativity in the Valley. Have a great day, everybody.